So this all happened around 7th grade. I was living in Thunder Bay, Ontario at the time. We had just moved into this place, and my uncle said right away that, yep, it's haunted. Like, I guess he's a lot more sensitive to this kind of stuff than I am and a few other people in the family. I don't know where he heard about this, but apparently there's this old school test where you can actually physically see if you have ghosts. And what he did was he took some string, and there's a hallway in this house we had. It was a townhouse, and he would tie the string from doorknob to doorknob. You know, there was a hallway closet and a couple of bedrooms and a bathroom, so he would tie strings connecting the doorknobs with the doors closed. Then everyone else would leave. I wasn't around for this. I only heard about this. But apparently, when they came back, the strings were torn off, ripped up, doors had flung open, and yeah, that place was apparently pretty haunted. There was even another time when my uncle, me, and a cousin or two, we went check that place out late at night with a night vision camera. Didn't really see much, I don't think. Not me personally, but they say they saw a face in the window when we went outside towards the end of it. My family will go ghost hunting and do paranormal investigations for fun. I have no idea what happened to that footage. Probably got lost over time, somewhere in storage. Yeah. So for the longest time while I was living at this house, during weekdays, I would usually be the first one back. You know, everyone else had jobs or stuff to do, school, whatever. I had school. I was going to junior high, they call it in Canada. Apparently it's called middle school in the United States, I think. And I was lucky enough to have the place to myself for a short amount of time every day before anyone else got back. And I remember during this time period, we were really into those paranormal shows. Like I said, we were doing paranormal investigations for fun. You know, we were watching anything and everything that was out there, including this one show, Most Haunted. It would show up on the Women's Network a lot. But you probably heard about it. It's basically this British ghost hunting show. They go to these famous locations, historical locations, and yeah, they check it out. They bring mediums, they bring equipment. And one of the things they would do in this show, you know, it's not even the only show that it's been done. I think Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren, you know, the famous Conjuring couple, I think they've done this trick. It's probably where the Most Haunted show even got it from. I guess, yeah, you know, it's just old school thing where you're trying to communicate with the spirit and you're basically asking for 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no. Sometimes they're asked to move something, but that's definitely a technique and a way they do it. So that's how I tried it. I would have the house to myself and I would ask questions. Is there anyone there? Can you give me a sign that you're here? Can you knock once for yes, twice for no, etc.? And you know what? Anytime I did this, nothing would happen. Fast forward to the following weekend. I remember I was sleeping in a bit. There was still some light coming in my room through the curtains. I had woken up and I couldn't move. I was frozen. I believe I was dealing with sleep paralysis. And it was my first time ever dealing with sleep paralysis. I had to actually Google later on to find out what that actually was. It would happen a handful of times after that, but it hasn't happened in a really, really long time. But that was the first. And when it first happened, I actually saw a shadow figure at the foot of my bed. It was a solid black figure, looked like the outline of a person, surrounded by light. There was still plenty of light in my room, but there was this solid black figure seemingly looking at me, facing me at the foot of my bed, and I couldn't move. At the time, I thought I was frozen with fear. Who wouldn't be? While this thing was there, one moment it would be there, and then it would appear in front of my face, like literally a black void of a person's head, inches away from my face, but only for a few seconds at a time. Then it would be back at the foot of my bed. Like I felt like it was actually trying to freak me out. And it did that a couple of times. Facing me, foot of my bed, facing me, and then it was gone. It just disappeared. So then I would force myself out of that sleep paralysis, which, you know, I felt took a solid 15 seconds to finally get out of it. And while I did, you know, I could hear my mom and my little bro just kind of hanging out and playing in one of the other bedrooms. I think it was his room. And I remember thinking, wow, it's like something so freaky just happened and they have no idea. So I didn't bother saying anything to them, although I did wind up telling that story to a few people, including my uncle, later on, so he can vouch for me. But then years later, I wound up watching this Dark 5 video. He's a YouTuber, does top 5 lists, dark ones. And in one of these lists, he did top 5 creatures of the night, I believe it was. One of them was like little gnomes or elves that come to visit you if you're, trying acid or LSD. I think acid and LSD are the same thing. But you know what I mean, hallucinogenics, they'll come. I remember that was on the list. But you know what? Number 5, I think it was number 5. I'll have to, check again. But one of the things that popped up on that list was shadow figures. And sure enough, these stories have been happening for a long ass time, and a lot of them were very similar to what had happened to me, what I had described. People seeing them at the foot of their bed in their bedroom. Oftentimes, they'll see a figure with a hat. Mine didn't have a hat. And I just thought, man, that's too creepy. That what happened to me was actually a fairly common experience that has happened to a lot of people throughout history, throughout time. Do I think it's paranormal? Absolutely. What's my explanation for it? One question I've heard about ghosts is, why do they have clothes? Like, there are quite a few sightings where, people will actually see spirits of, passed away relatives or people who had famously lived in a building, Civil War soldiers, but they'll be seen with clothes or uniforms. I personally have this theory that all spirits have the ability to change their appearance. Some newer spirits may not be as aware of this, because ultimately I think there are a lot of shapes and forms a spirit or entity can take. Look at orbs. Maybe that's a way a spirit can move around more efficiently to utilize their energy. And knowing that, I even think that there are some spirits that'll change their appearance to look intimidating or frightening. Why do they do this? I personally think that spirits can be divided into 2 categories because, we produce energy. Ultimately, that's what I think it has to do with. It all has to do with energy. We're alive. We produce our own energy. You can get energy from other sources. I've even heard you can get energy from running water, electricity, electronic devices. But when you pass away, the theory is that you become just energy. Like, I don't even know if you become energy. Maybe, the experience and the emotions flaring, typically when a person dies, can, not only create an imprint of your environment, but maybe even of yourself. But that's an entirely different conversation. Point is, energy without a living body of a person probably needs to feed off of other sources. This is why phones and cameras tend to drain in supposedly haunted locations. This is why people tend to feel exhausted or drained or emotionally manipulated, because spirits are feeding off your energy, and your emotions affect what energy you put out. So what I was saying before about the 2 different kinds of spirits, I think there are spirits that feed off of positive energy, guardian angels, whatever you want to call them, people who may have been hanging around the family for a long time, ancestors, that great-great-grandmother who, is hanging out with the rest of the fam who've decided to stick around, uncle, aunt, whomever, and they just want to see you do well. They want to protect you, see you happy, and feed off of that positive energy. But having said that, I also think the other kind, the spirits that feed off of negative energy, they tend to do so by making you fearful, making you angry. And one of the ways they do that is by changing their appearance, by manipulating you. And that's what I think this shadow figure is. I don't think it's the same entity, person, spirit. I think it's like a technique common in the spirit realm, world, whatever you want to call it. I think spirits that feed off of fear, spirits that need energy to survive, and have chosen to feed off of negative energy, can manipulate how they appear, can manipulate you, because I don't know how we are linked to our energy, how our energy affects us, and if other entities can affect that energy. But I believe there are ways, I believe there's a number of ways, and I believe that's just one of the ways spirits take advantage, perhaps are taught by other spirits, groups, and yeah, they feed off you, man. Why else was this spirit actively trying to freak me out? And apparently it's been going on for a long time. But that's my theory. Alright, remember to give me a like and sub. I hope you got a kick out of this. Hope I scared you. Because remember, it's true. Really happened. Not lying.